Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, Yamraj, and Tatpurus. Tatpurus is our Kishore Bhai. Om Brahma Jagananam Pratamam Purastad Dvisimati Surcho Vena Avah Subudnya Upama Asya Vishta Satascha Yoni Masatasya Vivaham Om Brahmane Namaha Pratna Purukam Namaskaran Samarpayam Om Idam Vishnu Vichakrame Dridhani Chadi Padamma Samudama Sapaku Sureshwaham Om Vishnave Namaha Pratna Purukam Namaskaran Samarpayam Om Hari Om Naste Rudramanya Vakutota Ikhave Bahubhyamutate Namaham जाते रुद्रा शिवा तनूर घोरा पाप काशिनी तयानस्तन्वा शंतमया गिरिशंता विचाकशिः ओम रुद्राय नमः प्रार्थना पूर्वकं नमस्कारं समर्पयामि ओम यमाय त्वांगिरस्वते पितृमते स्वाहा स्वाहा धर्माय स्वाहा धर्म पित्रे ओम यमाय नमः प्रार्थना पूर्वकं नमस्कारं समर्पयामि ओम प्रेता जयता नर इंद्रो वह शर्म जक्षतु उग्रा वह संतु बाहुना द्रख्यायता सतम ओम तत्पुरुषाय नमः प्रार्थना पूर्वकं नमस्कारं समर्पयामि. Once again, like what I did yesterday, like you can do namaskar to all the ancestors who passed away in your family. ब्रह्मस्तंभ पर्यंतम देवर्षि पितृमानवा तृप्यन्तु पितरः सर्वे मातृमाता महादयाम् अतितकूलकोटीनां सप्तदीपनिवासिनाम् आ ब्रह्मा भुवना लोकादिदमस्तु तिलोदकम् ये बांधवा ये यज्ञ जन्मनि बांधवा ते सर्व तृप्ति मायान्तु मया दत्तेन वारिणम् ये केचस्मत्कुले जाता गोत्रमुतान् ते गृह्णन्तु मया दत्तं वस्त्रनिष्पीडनोदकम्. हरि ओम नमस्ते रुद्रमन्यवकुतोत ईखवे बाहुभ्यामुतते नमः. जाते रुद्रा शिवा तनूरघोरा पापकाशीतया नस्तन्वा शन्तमया गिरिशन्तापि चाकशिः ओम जामिकुं गिरिसन्तः स विवक्षतवि शिवां गुरिततां कुरुमाहि गुसिः पुरुखं जगत् शिवेन वचसात्वा गिरिसाच्छा वदामसि जथा नः सुमना असतम् ओम अद्य वोच दधिवक्ता प्रथमो देव्यो विखक अहिंश्चं सर्वां जम्बयन्त सर्वश्च जातु धान्यो दराजिः परासुव ओम स्तोजस्ताम्रो अरुण उत बभ्रुः सुमङ्गलः जय जय न गुरुद्र अभितो दिक्षुसिताः सहस्रसो वैखग्गुहेड ईमहे ओम असौजो वसर्पति नीलग्रीवो विलोहितः उतेनं गोपा अदृशन्नु दहार्जः सदृष्टमेडयाति नः ओम नमोस्तु नीलग्रीवाय सहस्राक्षाय मिडुके अथोदे अस्य सत्वानो हन्तेभ्यो करन्नमः ओम प्रमुञ्च धन्वंस्तमभयोराज्ञोर्जामं जास्तस्ते हस्त इकवः पराता भगव्यो वप ओम विजयन्दनुः कपर्दिनो विशल्यो बाणवा उत अनेसन्नसजा इकव आभूरस्य निखङ्गतिः ओम जाते हेतुर्विदुष्टमहस्ते बभुवते धनुः तयास्मन् विश्वतस्य मयि क्षम्या परिभुज ओम परिते धन्वनो हेतुर्रश्मान् वणक्तु विश्वतः अथो जैकुतिस्तवारे अस्मन्निदेहितम् ओम अवतत्य धनुष्टभगो सहस्राक्षते खुदे निषिज्य शल्यानां मुखासिवो नः सुमना भव ओम नमस्त आयुधाय नादत्ताय दृक्णवे उभाभ्यामुतते नमो बाहुभ्यां तव धन्वने ओम मानो महान्तमुतमानो पर्वतमान् उक्षन्तु मान उक्षितं मानो वदेहि पितरं मोतमातरमहाप्रियस्तन्वो रुद्रीरिकः ओम मानस्तोके तनये मान आयुखि मानो गोकुमानो अश्वैखुरिरिकः मानो वीरान्मुद्रभामिनो वदीरः विग्मन्तः सदमित्वा हवामहे ओम नमो हिरण्यबाहवे सेनान्ये दिशां च पतये नमो नमो वृक्षेभ्यो हरिकेशेभ्यः पशूनां पतये नमो नमः शक्पिञ्जराय द्विधीमते पथीनां पतये नमो नमो हरिकेशायोपवीतिने पुष्टानां पतये नमो नमो बभ्लुषाय व्याधिनिन्नानां पतये नमो नमो वत्सहत्ते जगतां पतये नमो नमो रुद्राय तथा इनक्षेत्राणां पतये नमो नमः सुताय हन्त्वे वनानां पतये नमो नमो रोहिताय सपतये वृक्षाणां पतये नमो नमो भुवन्तये वाहरी वक्त्रैतयौखदीनां पतये नमो नमो मन्त्रिणे वाणिजाय कक्षाणां पतये नमो नमो उच्चिर्गोखाय क्रन्दयते पथीनां पतये नमो नमः कृष्णाय धावति सत्वनां पतये नमो नमः सहमाना निव्यदिनी अव्यदिनीनां पतये नमो नमो निखंदिणे ककुभयस्तेनानां पतये नमो नमो निचेरवे परिचयारण्यानां पतये नमो नमो वञ्चते परिवञ्चते स्थायुनां पतये नमो नमो निखङ्गणपिकुडिमतस्करणां पतये नमो नमः सकैर्भुजिगर्भसदभ्यमुष्णतनां पतये नमो नमो सिमद्भ्यो नक्तञ्चरेभ्यो विक्रेतानां पतये नमो नमो उष्णिकिणगिरिचराय कुलुञ्चानां पतये नमो विपुदन्वाभ्यशवो नमो नमः आतन्वानेभ्यः प्रतिदधानेभ्यशवो नमो नमो आयचद्यभ्यसद्यभ्यशवो नमो नमो विसृज्यभ्यः विद्यभ्यशवो नमो नमः स्वपजुजाग्रद्यश्वशो नमो नमो शयानेभ्य आशिनेभ्यश्चवनो नमो नमः श्रुतभ्यधावद्यभ्यशवो नमो नमः सभाभ्यः सभापतिभ्यशवो नमो नमः स्वेभ्यो स्वपतिभ्यशवो नमो नमो आव्यधिनिभ्यो विविध्यन्तिभ्यशवो नमो नमो गुणाभ्यस्ते गृहतिभ्यशवो नमो नमो गणेभ्यः गणपतिभ्यशवो नमो नमो व्रातेभ्यो व्रातपतिभ्यशवो नमो नमो वृक्षभ्यो वृक्षपतिभ्यशवो नमो नमो विरूपेभ्यो विश्वरूपेभ्यशवो नमो नमः सेनाभ्यः सेनानिभ्यशवो नमो नमो रथिभ्यो अरथेभ्यशवो नमो नमो क्षत्रेभ्यः संग्रहितेभ्यशवो नमो नमो महद्भ्यो अर्भकेभ्यशवो नमो नमो रथकारेभ्यशवो नमो नमो कुलालेभ्यः कर्मारेभ्यशवो नमो निमो निखादेभ्यः पुञ्जिष्टेभ्यः नमो नमः स्वनिभ्यो मैत्रेयभ्यशवो नमो नमः स्वभ्यः स्वपतिभ्यशवो नमो नमो भवाय च रुद्राय च नमः सर्वाय च पशुपतये च नमो नीलग्रीवाय च सिद्धिकण्ठाय च नमः कपर्दिने च युक्तकेशाय च नमः सहस्राक्षाय च शतधन्वने च नमो गिरिसराय च शिपिविष्टाय च ममिदुष्टमाय च कोमते च नमो हस्वाय च वामनाय च नमो बृहते च विरक्ये च नमो वृद्धाय स वृद च नमो व्राय च प्रथमाय च नमः आशवे चाजिराय च नमः सिद्ध्याय च शिभ्याय च नमो ऊर्म्याय च वस्वन्नाय च नमो नदयाय च द्विप्याय च नमो ज्येष्ठाय च कनिष्ठाय च नमो पूर्वजाय च परजाय च नमो मध्यमाय च पगल्भाय च नमो जघन्याय च बुद्ध्याय च नमो सौभ्याय च प्रतिसर्जाय च नमो जाम्याय च क्षिम्याय च नमो श्लोक्याय च वसान्याय च नमो पूर्वजाय च खल्लाय च नमो वन्नाय च कक्षाय च नमो श्रवाय च प्रतिश्रवाय च नमो अशुक्यनाय चाशुरथाय च नमः सुराय च ववेदिने च नमो बेबिने च कवचिने च नमो वर्मिणे च वरुखिने च नमः श्रुताय च सुतसेनाय च नमो दुन्दुभ्याय च हनन्याय च नमो दक्षिणवे च प्रमेशाय च नमो नमो निखङ्गिणे च कुतिमते च नमः सिक्नैकवे चायुधिने च नमः स्वायुधाय च सुधन्वने च नमः श्रुत्याय च पथ्याय च नमः काट्याय च लिप्याय च नमः कुल्याय च सरस्याय च नमो नदयाय च वैशन्ताय च नमः कुप्याय च वट्याय च नमो विद्युताय तप्याय च नमो मेघाय च विद्युताय च नमो वर्खाय च नमो वात्याय च नमो रेखम्याय च नमो वस्तव्याय च नमो वस्तुपाय च नमो सोमाय च रुद्राय च नमस्ताम्राय चारुणाय च नमो नमः शंभवे च पशुपतये च नमो उग्राय च भीमाय च नमो ग्रेवधाय च दुर्वधाय च नमो हन्त्रे च हनियसे च नमर्षभ्यो हरिकेशेभ्यो नमस्ताराय नमो नमः शंभवाय च मयोभवाय च नमः शंकराय च महेश्वराय च नमः शिवाय च शिवतराय च नमः पाद्याय च वाद्याय च नमः प्रत्तरणाय च उत्तरणाय च नमः तीर्थ्याय च कुल्याय च नमः सप्याय च फैन्याय च नमः सिक्त्याय च प्रवजाय च नमः किंगुशिलाय च क्षयणाय च नमः कपर्दिने च पुलस्तये च नमः इरिण्याय च प्रपथ्याय च नमो वृद्ध्याय च गोष्ठाय च नमः स्तल्प्याय च गृहजाय च नमो हृदजाय च निविख्याय च नमः काट्याय च गहरेष्ठाय च नमः सुख्याय च हरिद्याय च नमः पाङ्गुक्षव्याय च रजस्याय च नमः लोप्याय चोलप्याय च नमः पूर्वाय च सूर्वाय च नमः पर्णाय च पर्णशदाय च नमः उद्गुर्माणाय च विघ्नते च नमः अकिदते च प्रकिदते च नमः उक्रेभ्यो तनुक्रेभ्यशवो नमो नमो वाकिरिकेभ्यो देवानां कुरदैभ्यो नमो नमो विचिन्त्वकेभ्यो नमो नमो विक्षीणकेभ्यो नम आनिर्हतेभ्यः द्रापेभ्य अंधसस्पते दरिद्र नीललोहित आसं प्रजानां मेघानां पशूनां भेर्मरोगमोचनः किञ्चनाममतम् एवं इमा रुद्राय तवसे कपर्दिने क्षयद्वीराय प्रभरामहे मतिः चता संवृतते विष्णं पुष्टांग अस्मिन्नदनातुरं जाते रुद्रा शिवा तनुः विश्वाहा बेखजि शिवरुतस्य बेखजि तयनं मृडजीवसे ओम परिणोरुजस हेतुर्वणक्तु परिक्लेखस्य दुर्मतिरगायुः अवस्थिरामकौण्डवस्तुकाय तनयाय मृडगन् ओम विदुष्टम शिवोत्तम शिवो नः सुमनाभो परमे वृक्ष आयुधन्निधाय प्रीतिं वसन् आचक्रिणकं विप्रदागृहि ओम विकीर्त्र विलोहित नमस्ते अस्तु भगवः चास्ते स्वसुहतयो मस्मन्नवि पतुन्ताहम् ओम सहस्राणि सहस्रसो बाह्योस्तव हेतय पाशामिशानो भगवः परातिनं कक्रीदि ओम असंख्याता सहस्राणि जे रुद्रा अधिभूम्यां ते काक्कु सहस्रयोजनैव धन्वानि तन्मसि ओम सिन्वेन्तरिक्षे भवा अधि ते काक्कु सहस्रयोजनैव धन्वानि तन्मसि ओम नीलग्रीवाः शितिकण्ठाः देवगुरुद उपसितः ते काक्कु सहस्रयोजनैव धन्वानि तन्मसि ओम नीलग्रीवाः शितिकण्ठाः सर्व अधक्षमाचरः ते काक्कु सहस्रयोजनैव धन्वानि तन्मसि ओम जे वृक्षपिञ्जरा नीलग्रीवा विलोहितः ते काक्कु सहस्रयोजनैव धन्वानि तन्मसि ओम जे भूतानां मतिपते विशिखः कपर्दिनः ते काक्कु सहस्रयोजनैव धन्वानि तन्मसि ओम जे पथं पतिरक्ष ऐलप्रेदा आयुर्युधः ते काक्कु सहस्रयोजनैव धन्वानि तन्मसि ओम जे तीर्थानि प्रचरन्ति श्रकाहस्तानि कंगिणः ते काक्कु सहस्रयोजनैव धन्वानि तन्मसि ओम जन्यको विविदन्ति पात्रको विबतो जनान् ते काक्कु सहस्रयोजनैव धन्वानि तन्मसि ओम जो एतावन्तस्य पुयगुससदितो हृदविलसरे ते काक्कु सहस्रयोजनैव धन्वानि तन्मसि ओम नमो अस्तु रुद्रेभ्यो जे दिवि जे काम्बरे कमिकवहतेभ्यो दश प्राचीर दश दक्षिणा दश प्रतिचीर दशोच्चीर दशोद्वाह तेभ्यो नमः अस्तु तनवन्तु ते नो नडयन्तु तुजन्ति कमचस्तन द्वेष्टि तमेखञ्जं वेदमहम् ओम नमो अस्तु रुद्रेभ्यो जेन्तरिक्ष जे खं वात इकवहतेभ्यो दश प्राचीर दश दक्षिणा दश प्रतिचीर दशोच्चीर दशोद्वाहम् तेभ्यो नमः अस्तु तनवन्तु ते नो नडयन्तु ते जन्ति कमचस्तन द्वेष्टि तमेखञ्जं वेदमहम् ओम नमो अस्तु रुद्रेभ्यो जे पृथिव्यां जे खामन्नमिकवहतेभ्यो दश प्राचीर दश दक्षिणा दश प्रतिचीर दशोच्चीर दशोद्वाहम् तेभ्यो नमोऽस्तु नमडयन्तु तिजन्ति कमजस्तु दृष्टि तमेखञ्जं वेदमहम् इति पंचमोऽध्यायः अथ शान्ति अध्यायः ओम हरि ओम रचं वाचं प्रपदे मनोजोः प्रपदे साम प्राणं प्रपदे चतुः श्रोत्रं प्रपदे वागोजः सहोजामयि प्राणं ओम जन्मे हृदयेश मनुतें बृहस्पतिर्दधातु सन्नो भवतु भुवनस्य हजस्पतिः ओम भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ओम कया नश्चित्र आभुवदुति सदा वृदः सखं कया शचिष्टया वृताम् ओम कस्या सत्योमदनां कुहित्सो मदन सहं दडिचिरायुजिवसु ओम अभिगुणः सतिनमविता चरित्रेणं सतं भवास्युतिभिः कया त्वन्न उद्यापि प्रमन्दसे व्रखन्न कया स्तोत्रेभ्य आभरन् ओम इंद्रो विश्वसरात्रि सन्नो अस्तु दिवसञ्चतुपते ओम शन्नो मित्रः संवरुणः सन्नो भवन्त्वजर्मा सन्न इंद्रो बृहस्पतिः सन्नो वातः पवताग्नि सनस्तपतु सूर्यः सन्नः कनिक्रदेव पर्जन्यो अभिवरेकुतु अहानि संभवन्तु नः सपुरात्रिः प्रतिदीयताम् ओम चन्द्र इंद्राग्नि भवतामवोभिः सन्न इंद्र वरुणारातव्यं सन्न इंद्रापुखणा वाजसातु समिन्द्रा सोमा सुविताय संयोः ओम शन्नो देवीरविष्टय आपो भवन्तु पीतये संयोरविस्त्रवन्तु नः ओम स्योना पृथिवीनो भवनिक्षरा निवेशनी यथा नः सर्वप्रतः ओम आपो हिष्ठामयो भुवस्थान ऊर्जे तथा तनः महेरणाय चक्षुषे यो वः शिवतमो रसस्य भाजयति हनः उषतीरिव मातरः तस्मात् अरङ्गमामहो यस्य सेवाय जिन्वत आपो जनयथा जनः ओम द्यौः शान्तिरन्तरिक्षगो शान्तिः पृथिवी शान्तिरापः शान्तिरोखदयः शान्तिः वनस्पतयः शान्तिर्विश्वे देवाः शान्तिर्ब्रह्म शान्तिः सर्वभूम शान्तिः शान्तिरेव शान्तिः शामा शान्तिरेधि धृते लघुममित्रस्य मा चक्षा चक्षुखा सर्वाणि भूतानि समीक्षन्ताम् मित्रस्य चक्षुषा सर्वाणि भूतानि समीक्षे मित्रस्य चक्षुषा समीक्षामहे ॐ त्रते दपुहमजुक्ते सन्द्रे सिद्धिव्या संयुक्ते सन्द्रे सिद्धिव्या ॐ नमस्ते हर्षे शुचे नमस्ते अस्मत् अन्यांस्ते अस्मत्तपन्तु हेतवका पावको अस्मद्गु शिवो भवन् ॐ नमस्ते अस्तु विद्यते नमस्ते स्तैतनये नमस्ते भगवन्नतो यतः समीहसे ॐ यतो यतः समीहसे ततो नो अभयं कुरु शन्नः कुरु प्रजाभ्यो भयन्नः पशुभ्यः ॐ सुमित्रियान् आप ओखदय सन्तु दुर्मित्र्यास्तस्मै सन्तु जोस्माण्डष्टि जञ्चविदिक्महम् ॐ तच्चक्षुर्देवहितं पुरस्तात् शुक्रमुच्चरत पश्येम शरदः शतं जीवेम शरदः शतकुसुयाम शरदः शतं बभ्रवाम शरदः शतमदीनाः श्याम शरदः शतं भूयश्च शरदः शतातम् ॐ द्यौः शान्तिरन्तरिक्षगो शान्तिः पृथिवी शान्तिरापः शान्तिरो खगयः शान्तिः वनस्पतयः शान्तिर्विश्वे देवाः शान्तिर्ब्रह्म शान्तिः सर्वगुं शान्तिः शान्तिरेव शान्तिः सामा शान्तिरेधि यतो यतः समीहसे ततो नो अभयं कुरु शन्नः कुरु प्रजाभ्यो भयन्नः पशुभ्यः यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्र रुद्रमरुत स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेद साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदै गायन्ति यं सामगां ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तनविदुः सुरासुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः कृत्वा सुदुष्करं कर्म जानता वाप्य जानता मृत्युकालवशं ज्ञात्वा नरं पञ्चत्वमागतं धर्म समायुक्तं लोभमोह समावृतं दहेयं सर्वगात्राणि दिव्यान् लोकान् स गच्छतु ॐ शान्तिः 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 सुशान्तिर्भवतु।
I'm the niece of Kishore Tandon. I was more like a daughter to him in all the things that he did for me in my life. And I would just like to say that, death may be the end of life, but it's not the end of a relationship. This is a quote by Mitch Albom, who went to Brandeis University, my alma mater. And Kishore Uncle is the one who moved me into college. So my mom and I flew from Salt Lake City, Utah to New Jersey with my shower caddy and all the accoutrements for a college dorm room. And he drove me all the way to Massachusetts with my auntie, who was like in her 3rd trimester of pregnancy, and they moved me into my college room. This is one example of how he treated me like his daughter. And I've spent most of my Thanksgivings at his house. He's such a welcoming person and loves to have people over. And he's so generous. And he was also very generous and treated my sister like a daughter. When she finished college, he had her live with him for 2 months between college and her first job. And anytime I wanted to go to New York City, he would like give me all these maps and make sure I got to the right place and call for tickets for me. He treated me just like his daughter. So this Mitch Albom quote is, "Death may be the end of life, but it's not the end of a relationship." And I will never have any end of a relationship with my uncle. My uncle is also very loving, and just to see him with my auntie gave me so much joy. Some Indian men, not all, don't express their emotions all that much sometimes, and I could just tell how much he loved my auntie, whether they were drinking tea together or watching Indian movies. It really hit me when I went to India for a wedding, my cousin Rahul's wedding, and I saw my uncle and auntie dancing together. And I mean, they've been married for such a long time at that point. I mean, my aunt is beautiful and generous and kind. Like, you can't help but love her. But like, just to see the two of them dancing together and gazing into each other's eyes, all dressed up at the wedding, it just really made me realize what true love is. And my uncle, he doesn't really fit the mold. You know, he's a very unique man. He came to this country and did his PhD in economics. And I think the fact that both his daughters went into economics is a real tribute to him. A lot of times children don't follow in the footsteps of their parent, but both of his daughters really did. And we'll just really miss him. And I just love the fact that he played golf, you know? I think that's a good analogy or metaphor for his life. Like, he came to this country with so much optimism as an immigrant. You know, that's the tee off when you start your golf game. And then he was diagnosed with cancer 19 years ago. That's the sand trap you encounter that you get through and the water you have to get over. And he really was a trooper through that whole time. I mean, he got through his illness and all those bumps. He was able to become chairman of a department of economics. He was able to attend both of his daughters' weddings. He was able to see his grandchildren. So I really think he ended his life with a hole in one. Thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Dan. I'm Mita's husband. I met Kishore probably shortly after I started dating Mita, and we met first time at the old house in New Jersey. And there was a tennis court nearby, and you know, he had a couple of rackets, and I said, do you play tennis? He said, yeah, I play tennis. And I said, oh, let's go. I brought some sneakers. So we went to the tennis court and we played, we hit the ball around, and I think the girls, Priya and Richard, probably were shagging balls for us at the first time. And you know, we drove back to Massachusetts. I said, that was a pretty successful first meeting. The whole family came out to Salt Lake City for our wedding in 1999. And that's when I joined their family. Richard was our flower girl, and Priya was bridesmaid. I think she walked down the aisle with my best friend Kevin, who's a pretty big guy, 6'1", probably 220, and it was kind of funny having a 14-year-old on his arm at that time. Mita and I had our first child, Rohan. To see Kishore with Rohan was amazing. He was so happy for us. He absolutely loved children. Getting on the carpet, rolling around when before Rohan could crawl, and holding him, and when he could crawl and stand, and you know, he would treat Rohan like one of his own grandkids. And when Ravi came along, 20 months later, we would go there every Thanksgiving, and you know, he was genuinely loving, generous to both of my boys. Thanksgiving became a tradition in our family. We would travel nearly every Thanksgiving. I think we've only missed two in probably 17 years. you know, I have a lot of family in Massachusetts, and you know, they would not even bother to ask me, you know, what are you guys doing for Thanksgiving? Because they knew I was going to New Jersey. During these trips, we had a lot of time to sit around and chat. We went for more than just a day. We would spend probably 4 or 5 days there. And I had a lot of time to speak with Kishore. He gave me a lot of advice about kids, about raising them. You know, teenagers are tough, he said. Yeah. His advice was to have the kids hang out at your house. Then you know where they are. You know, it's important to know all of their friends, what they're doing, what they're into. He taught me a lot of life lessons during these trips. He gave me some financial tips, even the last time we were here last summer. We were talking about some funds, and he said to invest in, I forget the 3 letters, but something like EEE or something like that. And Richard overheard. He said, set it and forget it. And Richard said, that's a little simplistic, Dad, don't you think? That's. Anyways, I thought that was kind of funny. Anyways, in conclusion, I just wanted to say how happy I am to be part of Kishore's family. And I was inspired by his dedication to his wife, daughters, grandkids, and I'm happy to be part of his family.
I'm Meeta's father, and with your permission, I'll use my cheat sheet because I was warned that I have a tendency to go on and on. So to conclude in 2 minutes is going to be very difficult. However, I just jotted down some of the qualities and some of the things that Kishore represented, and hopefully this will be a great summarization. To me, Kishore was a gentleman, and family, friends and extended family was his whole world. And he made sure that he performed his duty in a very proper manner. I use the word proper in a good sense. And he took care of all of them lovingly. And I wish to say that he was a great soul. He was builder of relationships, not just builder of relationships, but maintaining them. What I learned from him is that it is not good enough to be building relationships as you go along, but it also is important to maintain them because every day of the week, every hour of the day, whether it is your wife, whether it's your children, whether it's your friends, whether it's your grandchildren, you have to constantly keep on building those relationships. Then the other great quality, he was very passionate about his profession. He was a great teacher. He was a great persuader. If I have to put in one word, a title to the gentleman, it would be he was influencer in chief. I use the word influencer in chief because influencer are the rare people who are sent by Almighty to perform some unusual stuff on this earth. And those influencer of chief are not dictators. They don't say too many words. They say what they mean, and they say it in very, very few words. And that's why I call him influencer in chief. Then the next thing I put down is he was a very religious man, but he was a practical practitioner. He believed in traditions, he believed in the culture, he believed in protocols, but he was practical. You know, he was not an old conservative, a religious practitioner. He was a modern guy who understood what is practical and what it is that we ought to do and how we ought to change. Then the other point I wrote down is he had a lot of wisdom. And in my learned opinion, the wisdom comes from practice, practice, practice. It comes with pondering. It comes with thinking. We ought to think before we say. We need to be passionate, compassionate. And Kishore was very compassionate. He had a lot of patience for Mr. Shah here. I would go on, but he would understand me in the first few words that I had to say, but he had the patience to let me be what I was. He didn't try to tell me what I ought not to be or what I ought to be. So I really, really appreciate his thinking and his advice. Then the next item I put down is, pointer, is he was gentle and stern at the same time, which means, stern in the sense, he was a strict disciplinarian. He expected, a lot from his family, his friends, and his students. You see, point is, when you expect, most of the time, and when it's by persuasion, they try to follow you. People always will follow a leader. He had the leadership qualities. He was the great persuader, and then gentle and stern at the same time. And I already said about being compassionate. He was a strategic thinker, meaning, I'm pretty sure he had planned, like 19 years ago or so when it was found, the cancer and so on and so forth. And then that time kids were quite young and so on and so forth. So it did take him, some time, and he put things in place so that now that his final time came, I think he has left them in much, much better situation and condition. On a lighter note, a friend of mine whom I've known since 1958 lives in San Diego. He was telling me the other day, meaning a couple of weeks ago, that you see, what happens is we all come to this world and we are put by the Lord, and then the return ticket is always booked. The only thing is nobody knows when that return ticket will be used, So, I guess he just decided that this was the time for him, and the Lord said, yes, this is the time, so you come on over. So, of all I know is, he's in a much better place, much peaceful place, and, spiritually speaking, he has gone back from what we kind of Hindus believe. He is back to where he came from. So he doesn't need to come back and forth, build new relationships, and, be in difficult situation again and again. Well, I'm being told that I've done my 2 minutes. Last couple of minutes. He was performance oriented, and he was a very thoughtful person. So I really him, and from the bottom of my heart, I'm saying he was lovable, affectionate. So I'm not doing a favor by saying that I really loved him, and he really bestowed his affection. Thank you. God bless.
I hope you can hear me at the back without the mic. My name is Naresh Diwan, and at the very outset I want to say, please do forgive me if I get a little emotional. I have known Kishore for almost 65 years. He was in kindergarten when I was in first grade. Besides the high school and elementary school years, we spent 45 years as friends here in the islands. So to the point the previous gentleman raised, he definitely knew how to retain relationships. He was a friend I could talk to about everything, without any filter. And he would give me advice that was genuine and valuable. I could always trust on the input he would give me. Our friendship was rewarded with our wives getting along. And what I have to say now is, what I love most is that Gita has taken me on as her brother. Not now, years ago. And I want you to know, we will always be with you. Kishore and I were blessed with 2 daughters each, and they have become the best of friends. Early indications are that our grandsons are going to carry on the generational friendship. You guys make sure of that. We can actually set a record with that. As a person, Kishore was the kindest, gentlest person I knew. He was the world's greatest husband, dad, uncle, friend, and nana. I know that Ashwin and Manal will agree that he was the greatest father-in-law because he treated them like his own son. That is just the type of person Kishore was. I lost a friend who will always, always, always be in my heart. The last thing I want to say to everybody gathered here is, don't close your eyes wishing him to come back. Open your eyes and see the love that is left behind. Thank you.
For those that don't know me, I'm Kishore's youngest child, Ashwin. I see a few confused faces, so let me explain. My looks don't necessarily suggest that as true. First there was my wife Priya, then Richa met Mrinal, and then 7 years ago, whether Katie knew it or not, I came into his life. I got to be part of 10% of Dad's life, and most of that was since I moved to the US. At first, I'm not going to lie, The side of Dad I saw was intimidating, a little terrifying. But as I spent more and more time with him, what I saw was a kind, caring, wise colossus of a man. He was my counsel as I figured out moving to a new country, then became a husband, a father, and a homeowner. The most inane question was never an issue, and even in the last few weeks, it was never an issue. What's a good price for cleaning gutters? Why is my water bill so high? How much liability should I have for our auto insurance? He would answer all these questions sincerely and affectionately. It was never an issue. I loved every time I could get him to crack that cheeky smile and let out a little chuckle. One occasion he commented, "I love the things you say," and I don't think that was because of the accent. It was a blessing. I love those moments where it was just he and I, hearing about his incredible career, chatting about something we'd read in the paper that day, or him just hearing out my latest woes about Tottenham Hotspur. As many of the people who have spoken already, as I'm sure the others will say in a few moments, and from people that have come to us in the last few days, again and again, we've heard of how Dad just played that role exceptionally, excelled beyond everything. And so maybe I don't have the lifetime of memories that many people in this room have, but I have my 10%, and that will be with me forever, and I'll forever be grateful. So thank you, Dad.
And I have to follow the prayer. On behalf of my family, I would like to thank everyone who is here today, joining us live stream, and those who have sent their condolences. We have received countless thoughts and prayers that have both been comforting during these difficult times, as well as a reminder of the positive impact that had on so many lives. So today, we celebrate the wonderful, love-filled life of Kishore Tandon. For as long as I've known Dad, he has always treated me like a son before I officially became one. A long time ago. We all know fellas can be intimidating, especially when you're an 18-year-old college kid with a chin patch who is dating his youngest daughter. Even though Dad was a very proud, strong, confident man, who at times can be intimidating, as we all know, he was always so warm and welcoming. He never once made me feel inferior, nor that I had to prove anything to him. He accepted me and everyone for who they are, for who they were. I truly believe that was one of Dad's greatest qualities and abilities, and it allowed him to excel as a renowned professor of finance. Because he accepted people for who they were, he had a profound way of impacting those around him and his students. He's had countless students reach out to him years after he finished their classes, just to say hello and to thank him for everything that he has done for them to prosper in their career. I don't know about you, but once I left the classroom, I never thought about my teachers. So that goes to tell you the kind of man he was. He was impactful and left his mark on everyone. I have never met anyone so passionate about his work more than Dad. He loved to teach and cared so much about his students, so much that he was on his laptop working while he was in his on the hospital recently, just to say, I have to make sure my students graduate. I pray that Neem inherits the same passion as his Nana did for something that he loved so dearly. My favorite moments with Dad were the ones when we were in South Brunswick and the six of us were sitting in his king-size bed, watching movies or watching sports. Didn't matter how bad the movie was or how bad the IMDb rating was, or if it was a Hindi movie we were watching on that Canadian box and I didn't understand a single word because there were no subtitles. It didn't matter. It was I always felt the love in his room with all of us there together, and that is a true definition of the Tandon family, being together. I look at the life Dad had, and I pray I can be as devoted as a husband, as committed as a father, and as loving to his friends as he was. I can proudly say he lived an amazing life, and I want to thank him for letting me be a part of his family and giving me the greatest gift of all, his daughter's hand in marriage. I know he's listening right now. Actually, who are we kidding? He's probably sleeping and saying, hurry up, he hates beaches. But, sorry, Dad, I'm still gonna speak. But I hope I've made you proud, and I promise you can rest in peace knowing I will cherish and take care of your baby girl, your grandson, and the rest of your family. You will be greatly missed, but your presence will always remain with us. Here's to one last twist on the dance floor. I love you, Dad.
Thank you to everyone in this room who've come and, sharing with us via live stream. I know many of you share in this deep pain with us, and we thank you for including our family in your prayers. I feel like the luckiest girl in the world to have had a dad like mine. He supported me through every walk of my life. As a young girl coming to my gymnastic meets, as an educator instilling the importance of education in me in my young age. He supported my marriage and treated my husband like his true son, and he was the #1 champion of my career up until his very last days. And as an absolute bonus upside, he threw a fantastic Diwali party, which many of you have participated in. He was a strong man, but an absolute sucker for his girls. Still to this day, he pays my phone bill on the Tandon family phone plan, although he gently liked to remind Priya and I that married women with kids in a house don't let their daddy pay for their phone bill. But he loved us very fiercely. He was a devoted husband who told me once that mom's happiness was the most important thing in his life. I'm lucky to have a love like this to look up to. I know these are just words, but I've watched these words come into actions time and time again through my lifetime. Until one day, about 2.5 years ago, the #1 spot in my dad's heart from my mom got replaced with his grandkids. My father was an amazing dad and a great husband, but as a Nana, he absolutely knocked it out of the park. He loved Ayan and Niam with his whole heart. Every single week for the last 180 weeks, he drove to wherever Priya and I lived, New York City, North Jersey, it doesn't matter, to spend a few days taking care of his grandkids per week. He loved them so much. The laughter, the games, the memories, they were cut short, but I pray that they adore and remember his love for them. Dad's work ethic was unparalleled. He loved to teach his profession. He was working in his laptop, up until his final days, and I was begging him. He was looking exhausted. I said, Dad, please put the laptop down, go to sleep. And he said, Richa, my students need to graduate. Until his very last days, his students remained a priority. He really taught us the value of hard work and the importance of an excellent education. I'm very proud of my mom for the strength that she's shown over the last few difficult days. She is focused on celebrating Dad's beautiful life. She always reminds us not to cry because the kids are watching and they get upset when we cry, and there's nothing my dad would have hated more than to see his grandkids cry. From the man who never complained or cried, 20 years ago when he beat cancer, up until his last final days in the hospital, he would have wanted us to keep our heads up and be strong. I know I'm never going to be the same person after this. The void in my life by him will always be present for every single one of my last days. They say parents never leave their children, and I pray that I feel his presence still in my life. Daddy, thank you for showing me how to live, laugh, and love. I will do everything I can to raise Niam to be an amazing father and a devoted husband and dedicated to his craft just like you. And most importantly, to become the life of the dance floor at the party. I love you.
We saved the best for last. I'm just kidding. Dad was my best friend. He was always Dad, but over the last 20 years, he became my confidant, my quote-unquote person. Simply put, I adored him. He was my idol. As far as dads go, Rich and I hit the jackpot. Growing up, he gave us room to make mistakes, knowing it was part of the journey. As we became adults, he was our sounding board, knowing when we needed someone to listen while we worked out our issues on our own. But one thing's for certain, Dad always gave the best advice. I may not have always agreed with his advice, but I never made an important decision, little or big, without his input. In fact, as some of you know, Ashwin and I recently moved to New Jersey, North Jersey. Richa had taken Mom and Dad to view a few houses in the area. Dad saw one and said, "This is perfect for Priya." And surely enough, that's the house we bought. These past few days, I've learned that Dad was the same type of friend to many of you as he was to me. The stories that some of you have shared all center around the same qualities of Dad. He was fiercely loyal. He was passionate about his work. He loved his friends and family, and he was truly one of the best people that many of us had the honor of knowing. While I spoke to Dad every day on the phone, my favorite memories are when I visited him at home. He would be sitting on his comfy spot on the bed, and I would be next to him in the armchair. And he would always say, "So Priya, tell me what's going on. What's the gupshup these days?" Dad loved to listen to gossip, probably because he was a girl dad. And we would sit there chatting for hours. And then the rest of the bunch would all filter in, and we would squeeze into the bedroom, chatting the night away, watching movies, and hanging out together. Dad was always there to celebrate my success, but more importantly, he was there to help me back up when I fell down, to hold my hand when I was going through a hard time. He was always there. He showed up. And it was the same for many of you. It's easy to have someone there to celebrate with you, but it takes a certain type of person to be there when things are hard. And Dad was that person. Of course for me, but I know also for many of you. This week has been unbelievably tough, and as devastated as I am, as I know a lot of you are, please celebrate the incredible life my dad had. He accomplished everything he wanted. He was 6 years old when he said to my daddy and Baba, "I want to move to the US," and that he did. He not only achieved his master's, but he got his PhD and became an educator. He loved his profession. And he was a born teacher, an unbelievably good one. I know because I was his unofficial student throughout school. He had 2 daughters who loved him more than life itself, and a wife that stood by him proudly. He then welcomed 2 sons into the mix, who both never stopped putting a smile on his face. And then he had 2 little grandsons who adored their Nana, who gave him the biggest hugs and the sloppiest of kisses. Dad had a great life, and let me tell you, he was loved beyond measure. Dad, I will miss you every minute of every day, but when I do, I'll remind myself that you're the warmth shining from the sun. You're the calmness in the air I breathe. You're the peace that glows from the moon. But most importantly, you're in my heart, where you'll always be until one day when we meet again. And when we do, there you'll be in your comfy spot on the bed, and I'll be in the armchair next to you, catching up on gupshup, just like old times. I love you, Papa. Om Shanti.
Yep. Thank you all for coming and joining us and including us in your prayers. There's snacks and tea and coffee in the conference room in the back, and that's it. Oh, yeah, and if there's anyone else who wants to share anything else. Sure.
Dear family and friends of Kishore, I still can't fathom that the man my mother has graciously worked for all these years is gone. I can only grasp what horrific blows it's been to you, his dear family. He was such an amazing family man, always very accepting of my sister and I at his Diwali parties when we were little kids. I still remember how he thought we looked cute in our little Indian saris, how graciously his kids would play with us. He raised them so well. He was such a great man, may he R.I.P. Sending all my love, Jenny Rose.
Hello everyone. I'm probably the only one here from who's speaking from Baruch College. So I joined after Kishore was there. I know him for the last 17 years. He was the chairman of the department when I joined, and for over 10 years he was the chairman of the department. He was a mentor for sure. He was also a co-author. I joined Baruch married. I had 2 children along the way, and he was there all along. I have attended his Diwali parties, and I know what they meant to all of us. People from work have written a lot, and we have given it to the family. There was one person who wanted me to read what he wrote, and I would like to take the opportunity to do so. His name was Jay Dhaya. He worked with Kishore for a number of years. This is what he said. Due to a medical situation, and I'm unable to attend today. My thoughts are with Neeta, Priya, and Richa, and the entire Tandon family. Your father was not only my dearest friend, colleague, and mentor, he was my father figure. My father had died when I was young, so Kishore helped me through that everyday challenge that a father does. We not only shared a work connection, we had also both been inflicted by cancer. Kishore would counsel me through my treatments and walk me to the treatments when I wanted to give up. He listened to my suffering and I to his. Just like my father, he always told me to be positive and look at the brighter side. Most of you might not know, but Kishore accompanied me when I purchased my first apartment in the city. He was one of my first persons to meet my wife and we co-taught a PhD class together for 16 years. He was who I spoke to on a weekly basis, if not more often. I have not only lost a friend, but a father who impacted my life and many others among us today. You will hear today that Kishore was a great academic thinker and mentor. For me, he was much more. His loss has left a deep hole in our hearts, but I know his memory will live on through his impact on all of us. I will miss you, my friend, colleague, mentor, and father. I do want to share. There are a lot of stories here from the family, but he was also family to us at Baruch. He spent years with us. He was the chairman of the department, but he was not just an educator. He was a fabulous educator and a great researcher. But he created this sense of family even within the department. And I just wanted to share that. He had a warmth about him. His door was always open, even after cancer, when he lost his voice. He continued to teach. He taught in our executive programs. He taught in our undergrad, his master's. I can so see when they said that till the last day, he was at his desk, because it matters to our students. If he was not around, we wouldn't know how to give them grades, and I understand why he feels so strongly. He was there for all of us, and we will miss him dearly, but we will try and inculcate all that he has taught us. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ray Yao. I'm also a colleague of Kishore. Jay Daya, Sonali just mentioned, he and I joined Baruch together in 2002. So Dr. Tandon for 19 years. I'm the one, I live next town, so I'm close to Kishore's house. I've been to his house numerous times. Every time I went there, Mr. Tandon treated me with mango lassi. All these days, whenever I saw it like an Indian shop, I try to look for it. I never get the same flavor. They just don't taste it fresh, and that's nice. Yeah, every time I met with Kishore, he always started with the family. How's your daughter doing? And then I realized over the years that the Indian family and Chinese family share a lot in common. How to educate our kids, how the dedication to our kids. Yet whenever he started talking about his family. Daughter, going to business school, the next one, graduate, Wall banks and private equity. It's always very exciting. And then in the last few years, and then the grandchildren, and I think Mrs. Tandon helped to take care of the grandchildren in the city. There's always all this wonderful news. Okay, the two daughters might not know, they have major impacts on my thought process, how I educate my daughter. So my daughter last year finished high school, joined the NYU Stern, first year finance major, as you can tell. Yeah, a lot of memories. And I told my daughter today, and she had a very vivid memory. This is her picture, attending youth party. I think when she was like 3 or 4. Kishore invited me to the party. I said, "Oh, Indian party? What do you do? Just sit and chat?" Great. What are you talking about? The Kishore family. They're the best party in New Jersey. That was so true. Kishore, professor and scholar, and everyone was rocking the floor in the basement with the lightning ball and everything, right? The power went out because I guess the voltage rule. He was the one going down the basement, and then in 5 minutes, light went back on. Okay, so it's all these beautiful memories. I'm here to celebrate his wonderful life, how it's influenced on the rest of us. Thank you so much.
He lives it, but only to few it is known. Kishore taught me interacting with one another. The essential thing is to come to know the specific valuations and preferences of the other individual, to understand him or her. To the living, Kishore is no longer. He has left us, but he's alive in our own spirit. His kindness, his immense love, and the pride he took in his wife, Neeta, and his 2 wonderful daughters, Priya and Richa. The courage he displayed in fighting serious long-term illness his contributions to Baruch College as a teacher and researcher, and his funny sense of humor. Half my dear friend I shall sadly miss in the days and years to come. I will carry Kishore in my heart always. Billy Uncle couldn't be here because he's attending a close friend who's battling cancer. And I have a few words of my own as well. So I was a student of Dr. Tandon 15 years ago and have been in good touch with him every time I used to go to Baruch College Library to study for CFA exams. And when Billy Uncle and Dr. Tandon used to go out for a cup of coffee, I used to accompany them as a break. But Dr. Tandon was a larger-than-life figure in the finance careers of many students during his 40-plus years at Baruch College, teaching, advising, and reminding us of the impossibly high standards to which we were held in his class. The challenge we all faced was how to say or do something interesting enough during classroom discussions to get Dr. Tandon's attention. I was fortunate enough to have enrolled in 2 of his courses during my time at Baruch. Needless to say, his classes were full within a day or 2 of enrollment. Consistently, students were impressed with Dr. Tandon's breadth of knowledge and his ability to keep an entire classroom deeply engrossed in learning for more than an hour. Back in the day, Dr. Tandon was also the chair of the finance department and was always busy. It was a common sight to see one of us following Dr. Tandon down the hall, desperately trying to get him to turn around and listen to what we were saying. It was a place of energy, excitement, and competition amongst peers. In other words, Dr. Tandon's class was a training ground for the real world of finance we each aspired to conquer. Or did I say, his exams were certainly a beast. A quite modest and thoughtful man and an amazing professor, Dr. Tandon was also a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I still vividly remember coming to the exam hall for one of his courses and he jokingly said, "The Steelers had a tough game over the weekend when I was preparing the exam. Don't expect it to be easy." I also had the pleasure of serving as a graduate assistant in the finance department during his tenure as chair. He was generous and gracious to those who worked with and under him, treating us all as colleagues and even as members of an extended family. And while I still miss him as a teacher and a mentor, I'm comforted by the knowledge that his accomplishments, his students, and his intellect are enduring and will continue to exemplify the very best in us. Thank you.
Okay, now there's tea and coffee and snacks outside. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah. Just remind me to get my phone.